fine. Oh, yes, I'm fine. Yes, I am fine. I went to do a workshop today in Bishops,
And how was
and it was very nice. It was quite interesting. But what was really put the icing on the cake is they showed their love with a large basket of fruit. I tell you, there's pawpaw, Julie mango, apples, some of the hugest grapes that I had not seen in a while. Pineapple. Mm-hmm.
it?
Yes, that is how you must feel when you come from doing one of those school workshops. Yes, fruit for days, apples. Mhm. I'm in a wonderful place.
That is very, very good to note. And how was everyone's week?
The week was the week was contemplative. Contemplative. Spent
Okay.
a great deal amount of time just trying to be as quiet as possible and apply apply some things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? How was your week?
I think for me, especially yesterday, I was doing the Genius Goal question,
Mm-hmm.
and the question is like, what triggers you and how you react and how you respond. And it brought so much clarity, I think,
Mm-hmm.
like, and what emotions you feel. And a lot of times for me, it's like the foundation of everything is fear.
Yeah.
Fear of the unknown, fear of letting go, fear, that you would fail. And it was just like an aha moment. So like today I got upset and I was like, okay, this is not how, I think that the thing about it is you get upset and you could acknowledge it. And
Yes.
you acknowledge that you're upset. And then it's trying to figure out why. And I was really able to calm myself down a lot faster than, let's say, even last week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, like I said, it's just like applying the things that you learn, and it's not going to happen instantaneously. I think, the next time something happen, I'll probably get upset. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
I was like really proud of myself today to distract myself and be able to calm myself down
Yeah.
in the time that I did. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Noted. Noted. And you see, the first step is really knowing, in terms of identifying where you are where your feet are. So once you know where you are, then you are able to stand, you are able to get the clarity really to move forward. Because a lot of times, sometimes we're so consumed by the pattern, we don't even know that we are part of the pattern. Because you're in it so deeply, you can't even identify the difference. So the fact that you are able to identify, okay, this is where I am, and you are able to get yourself back to where you need to be, that is really, really important. And again, it is something that we do not pay a lot of attention to. But awareness is always the first step. Always the first step. So, for tonight's topic, which is your emotions affect your identity, what triggered emotions for you last week?
Uncertainty and fear. Like I said, fear is the trigger for most of your emotion. Like somebody will get you upset,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, sometimes it's things that sometimes is out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
It's either something that happened before or something that's going to happen, and you're realizing more and more. It's like it is what it is. and how you're dealing with the situation at hand right now
Mm-hmm.
and not spiral out of control. Reel yourself back in and sit with yourself and, what's the next step?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I want to agree with Lisa because when you get all the way down to, at least for me, you get all the way down to the bottom, as they would say, get to the core of what really is the issue is fear of loss of face, fear of not looking intelligent, fear of not being able to fit in, fear of not having things that you want. So there is a level of fear. Some people think when they hear fear, I remember one guy telling me, "I never have fear. I will jump off a bungee jumping thing, and I could race cars, and but yet he needed to find $20,000 a month each month to keep his family going,
Mm-hmm.
and that kept him anxious. But he didn't see that as fear. He just said, "Oh, I have to hustle and I have to do this and I have to do that." But there was a fear of not having that meeting that financial commitment. So it looks like a lot of things, but at the bottom of it is a fear of something, of
Mm-hmm.
not accomplishing something.
Mm-hmm.
And so when when it might look like, okay, this person did me something, but I fear that I may not be able to control the situation.
Yeah.
And so I act out in other ways now. I get angry or I get belligerent or I go into some people passive aggressive, so they get very quiet. And but at the bottom of it really is that kind of thing. And I don't think it was last week, but it's been on my mind for a while. And it's not so much the incident, it's should I speak to the person about it? And it hasn't gone away in terms of it's like a clear, okay, you don't have to talk to that person about this, or you really should say something about it. And it came back to me today when I was presented with the basket of fruits because it was a similar situation and it was a similar arrangement. If you come, we come, we do the workshop for your school, and we like fruit. So, no, you can't pay, you don't have budget to pay, but we like fruit. And when the fruits were given, I can't even say presented, they were given. Most of them went in the dustbin. And the way it was presented, it was just like, you just ran through the market, and every vendor that sold you something, you put that bag in another big bag. And it was like, here, your things are in your car. And so so after today's thing, I said, which part of me is offended? Which part of me wants to speak?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting with that for a while now because it's one of two things. If the request comes again, would I honor the request? And if you do not honor the request, are you not honoring the request because you do not have the time, you do not have the capability, or you're vexed because your fruit were rotten and you had to throw it away? But on the other side, I'm saying, but it was part of an arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
We come, we do it, and we would accept this in lieu of anything else. And therefore, there's a feeling of there was no thought, there was no effort, there was no. So I'm I've been sitting with that for a while to see which part wants to speak and which part should not speak. Or is it just a case of it's not that important, but it feels important enough to say something?
Yeah, the thing is, see what comes after you sit with it quietly. See what response comes before responding, because the question is there for a reason.
Could I ask a question?
Mhm.
Is it that you personally want to say something?
Well,
Like
that's what I'm talking
you feel
about.
like you should say something. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's like, okay, if the thought comes to not say anything and just let it be, would you still feel like I feel I should still say something, you know?
Well, nothing has been coming on, but the only thing that stays is the you should say something, because and then I get into overthinking it and overthinking it and overthinking it, and then I say, okay, maybe I just okay, try and live with it, but you're living with it with the knowledge that that request is going to come again, and therefore should you clear this matter up one time.
But
Um,
I feel like
so
I
because technically,
hmm.
the fruit are an exchange for the workshop. That's what it is. Technically, you don't have a budget, so we take fruit. So it's as though you have not met your end of the bargain, if you understand. But I am sitting with it, but I'm not getting a no. I'm not getting okay, just like that. I'm not getting that. So is it that I'm also getting an answer and fighting with that answer?
That,
So that's why I say which part of me is talking, which part of me is working. So I am.
Hmm. So remember, in an instance like this, when you are unsure, remember the best next step is really to sleep, cut the momentum, and when you get up tomorrow, see what comes. Remember, sometimes we have to cut the momentum, especially when we are unable to move forward from a clear space. Always remember that in order to cut the momentum. So you could even ask the question before you go to sleep. And then when you get up, because for a lot of questions that we may have when you get up first thing in the morning, that is where you get the most clarity. So in doing so, try it and then see what comes. Especially if you are still in a space of confusion, remember, guys, cut the momentum some way, somehow, and then see what comes. And after that, what usually happens is that you really gain a lot of clarity afterwards. All right. So, as it relates to tonight's topic, remember that emotions, they don't just shape your reactions, that they could really shape your identity. Because just as was explained last week when we read the Befitment post, which let me read again for you, just so that everyone is aware before we move forward, so that you can be clear as to how these things tend to happen, because a lot of times you're still unaware. Do you know that the initial physical rush of an emotion is about 60 to 90 seconds as the chemical surge, which is adrenaline, passes through your bloodstream? Persistence any longer only occurs because the mind ruminates on the feeling, re-triggering the same 90-second cycle over and over through thoughts and stories. A 90-second emotional reaction sustained for hours or days becomes a mood. If it lasts for weeks or months, it becomes a temperament. And over years, it becomes a personality trait. So, in doing so, you can really understand how your emotions could really shape your identity. And that is why sometimes you see repeated feelings of fear, shame, anger, disappointment, or confidence can quietly become the lens through which you define yourself. And over time, emotions that were meant to be temporary experiences can become permanent labels. But as for you right now, do you think that emotions inform you or do they define you?
I think they're supposed to inform you, not define you, because if you letting it define you, then you're going to stay in the anger. You're going to, that's how you build the pattern. So I think it's just supposed to inform you. But for a long time, we've been allowing our emotions to define us.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right. So, seeing that they are supposed to inform and not define, and again, this is a lot of introspection. What emotional patterns keep showing up in your life? Because in identifying the patterns, you would recognize, is this part of my identity? Where should this really be placed? Is this in the wrong placeholder? Do I have it as part of my identity, or is it just supposed to inform about something in particular? So again,
I
uh-huh.
think that for me, like I was saying, like after having, discussions and talking about it, especially like last week and this week, I was able to identify. Because sometimes you're angry and you're just angry and you just stay angry and you never ask yourself the questions of why are you angry, what causing you to be angry, how to deal with it and move forward. So I think like this was the first time I was able to be like, okay, I'm allowed to sit in it because sometimes you feel like, oh my, you're so angry and it's like you're upset with yourself because you're angry. You know what I mean? But
Mhm, mhm.
I think I learned like you sit with it, you accept it, and you're allowed to feel the way you feel. But like you said, don't stay in it. So once I was able to talk myself into like, it's okay to be angry because of this situation at hand. But okay, how are we going to deal with it? Why are you angry? Is it something you could control? Is it something you cannot control? And for me, it's like, this too shall pass, you know? And I had to tell myself that because it is. And I know at the end of the day, it is always going to work out. So it's just like, if you know it's going to work out, then why stay in it and, you know, build more momentum and be upset about it?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
and then I was angry, and then I spoke to the person, and okay, well, I have to do this, 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 and I'm like, see, so there's a reason for certain things, so you just have to like, don't overreact. Find the root cause, and sometimes in finding the root cause, you'll be like, okay, so I can see how it could work out differently, or how it's supposed to work out.
yeah. But how many of us think that they know what the root cause of the emotional triggers are?
I think that's something we're learning now, at least for me. We didn't always used to think about a root cause and why. You just used to know like you just know you're upset, and then you point fingers and it's this one or it's that one or I didn't get it. Because like today I was looking for a document and I'm like, guy didn't give me a document, didn't give it to me, and I'm sure he didn't put it in an envelope and he didn't do it the way this my old guy would do the stuff. And then I found it and it was in a pretty good envelope, and you know what I mean? I'm like, there you go. Jump into conclusions, you know what I mean? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to like, you realize like you're pointing fingers, you jump into conclusion, you're making assumptions. And sometimes, like even for Catherine, if you're just sitting it, do nothing, leave it. If this situation come up a second time, then you'll be like,
Yeah.
based on that time, how you feel, you would know if you are going to accept it or you're not going to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave it. It is what it is. You might not feel good about it, but now you know. So when your situation arises, you ask the question, should I? Should I not?
And
Because
then,
you might be thinking that she went out of her way to give you rotten fruits, but you don't know the just cause. That's your assumption. You don't know her financial situation. You don't know if she bought it and it was perfectly good and she was holding on to it. And then she's like, oh my gosh, at the last minute they go bad. Because sometimes now you buy fruits and like, yes, yesterday they look good and today they're like overripe with the heat. You know what I mean? So you really don't know how it came to be what it is. You jumping to conclusions and you making your assumption and saying the person, you know,
mm-hmm.
purposely did this, but maybe not.
And you see, sometimes again, I'm not sure if you all are able to really recognize it. Is this the opportunity for you, Catherine, in this experience to really gain clarity and really tell the universe what you really want? Because this could just be a one off thing and able for you to clear up, or really, sometimes we think we have things defined, really defined, and sometimes it really not as defined as we might want it to be. And then this could just be a one off thing. And the next time the opportunity comes, you get something totally, totally, totally different. And you see, sometimes things happen to see what our responses would be. Are we going to stay in the negative space and attract more for the next experience? So you don't send that out into the universe. So you ensure that when the next opportunity comes, your ticket booked and paid in full. you know and you see, it is within these things that is where you really get the opportunity to practice something different. And yes, it is not easy. And just before I let Catherine speak, let me just share something else with you all. Another post from Befitment, I think it was on Saturday. So look at this post. New beginnings, because of course this was a new opportunity in terms of you going to this school. So new beginnings can usher in feelings that are difficult to regulate. That's normal. The uncertainty you feel isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's a sign you're stepping beyond what's familiar. Emotions may arise automatically, but regulation is a skill that grows with experience. Don't mistake discomfort for danger. Give yourself grace to adapt, learn, and grow through each new milestone. So sometimes you see, because it is new, and again, you don't know what this is, you don't know. But again, it's probably the opportunity for you to practice neutrality. In each experience, even in Lisa's experience where the emotions came, but now in this time she was able to regulate a lot faster. So sometimes when you're experiencing whatever the thing is, sometimes you have to think of it as practice. Practice. This is the opportunity to practice, because for the next, well, this is 3 weeks, because last week was a week already. We are talking about feelings and emotions during the week. So was this your opportunity to really practice regulation? Yes, Catherine. Your hand is raised.
I'm practicing. I'm practicing. But what was coming to me, particularly when you asked the question about how many of us look for the root cause of what is triggering, because this didn't happen last week and it didn't happen the week before. Um, while I was listening to Lisa and I was listening to you speaking, what was coming was, again, when you go down to the root cause, And when you said, is this the opportunity to practice? And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, does this resemble something that you have experienced before? Not over fruit, but there is a sense of, and it's way deep rooted about how you see yourself and what you consider acceptance and what you consider respect. And so I'm listening to you speak, and it's going through, and I'm saying, is it that this is one of the things that I had to work on because I considered it disrespectful? And why I did that is because, and I guess we get across the one of the E's, the expectations. We had such a long conversation, the teacher and I, about these fruits. So it wasn't like there was no, for me, and the other person who went to do the workshop with me, there was like no effort put into what you would present. Okay, so you may have purchased it this Saturday. Yes? And because you wanted to get it done, you're not working in a market. But to me, it was incumbent on you to, okay, I have these things on I bought it Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I think the workshop was a Wednesday. So all that time. But when you're handing something over, can't you smell it? It was, and I'm listening now and I'm saying, okay, Catherine, what triggered you? Is it that old thing from the repository which says, I feel unseen in that moment, as though you did not value what I was bringing to you? And so you considered it okay to just give me rotten fruits. And it wasn't so much, to me, if you had taken it out of the bag at all, the 12 or the 8 bags, different bags, it was literally the bags from the market. You know, you go, you buy something by one vendor, they put it in a plastic bag, you put it in something, a plastic bag. And so I'm listening now and I'm saying, okay, Gordon, what really irritates you and why? So yes, I'm taking the opportunity to dig deeply, because if it is something that's going back far, then I would see that as a space where you have some work to do still.
Mm-hmm.
You still have some work to do. You're not really where you thought you were in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is my teaching mode that says you really should put your best foot forward when you're presenting something.
Mm-hmm.
But that is an expectation.
That is an expectation
on my part.
Yes,
because
a lot of
time you're getting something, I give you something. So you have gotten it, I'm giving it to you, we've met. So if you feel it should have been like the one you got today, it's cellophane around it and basket, that's your expectation. So I'm putting all these things. I think finally in the final analysis, I probably will not say anything. If the request comes again, because I'm balancing, you calling over fruit, but are you allowed to withhold your assistance to students? Core business is students, not fruits and basket. So I think in the long run, I will just end up saying nothing. And when the thought comes back up again, I'll just deal with balancing the thought itself. As opposed to, because it might be coming from a very far place.
Yeah.
A very, very far place where you felt unseen and unwanted. as a child.
Yeah.
So I'm linking,
Yeah.
I don't want to overthink it, but as you always speaking, the thoughts were coming. So I was taking a little notes that I probably would end up saying nothing, but I have to manage the feeling because the
Yes.
feeling,
Yeah.
especially with the presentation today, the feeling came back.
Yeah.
You see? So, but I'm thankful for the
Yes.
insight.
Because sometimes it's just about, just as you said, so you really have to dig deep because what is this? It is an expectation. I could even give you an example because a few weeks ago, I'm not sure, well, for the persons who are in Trinidad, there is a very famous, well known ice cream brand called Sovetti. So myself, my sister, her kids, and another cousin's daughter, all of us went. So, of course, there's a lot of hype behind this ice cream brand. And my family is a family of cooks. And they do things from scratch and it tastes really good. So when we went, of course, everybody bought a lot of different things, ice cream cakes, ice cream. It's up the refreshers, the cookies, everything. Went back to the car and everybody was underwhelmed. But there is a major hype around it in Trinidad right now. Major hype. Quality stuff, eh? But again, it was just, not what you expected. And I remember after my niece was going on and on and on and on, and I had to tell her, Danica, remember, again, your expectation. You see everybody else's expectation and what everybody else would think of it, and then your expectation is something else. I said the experience was the experience. That is it. This one experience doesn't have to define all the future experiences. The experience was just the experience. That is all that it is. So you wanted to experience the thing, you experience the thing, and that is all. You don't have to harbor any feelings. You don't write up nothing on social media. The experience was the experience. And sometimes, a lot of times, you really have to look at life through that lens. The experience was just the experience. What was there to learn from it? And you see now, after the conversations, Catherine, you're recognizing that, this is probably something that I need to dig a bit deeper to really focus on because, again, all of the experiences, and I know sometimes it is very annoying, it can be frustrating when you are in it, but it is there for a reason for you to uncover and sometimes discover certain aspects of yourself. So even when you are going through what is deemed a challenge or something that's uncomfortable or you really don't want to experience this, it is what you are supposed to be doing. And a lot of times, what do? We try to run, and what does it do? Show up in another form. Every time we try to run, the lesson shows up in another form via a different person, via a different place, a different thing, same experience. And it is because there is something that you didn't learn along the way. So if you try to skip form 4, or you try to skip standard 4, it is coming back when you get to university. And if we look at life through that lens, you would recognize, this is really only about me, and this is about my expansion. This is about my growth. This is what it is. And once we start to look at it as opportunities for growth, instead of, even for myself, sometimes irritation, sometimes be like, why am I experiencing this? And you really have to bring yourself back to neutral to see it through a different lens. Yes, Anastasia, I know that you had your hand raised for a little while.
Good night.
Hello.
I am thinking about Catherine's situation. And I am thinking that, okay, even though she may dig deep and she realize, okay, it's something from the past that is triggering that emotion in her, why shouldn't she address the issue? Because the struggle is real. You understand? I do not think it is fair for her to go and give her best and get rotten fruits in return. That would trigger me. right? And I have people that do me something like that already. You understand? That do me things like that, yes. And I will keep it in and I wouldn't say anything because I want to be the people pleaser and I want to be nice and but I eaten up inside. You understand? And for me, I don't see why she shouldn't address the issue because at the ending of the day, I think she's feeling how she's feeling because she was treated that way before, and probably she did not address the issue. And I had to learn how to address my issues. I mean, I talked all about that already with people doing me all kind of thing, and I hush in my mouth and I suck in it up. And now I am learning that I have to address my issues. I don't have to go in anger and get on like a mad lady, but I have to address it because I do not want that kind of behavior meted to me again. So if I address the issue and okay, the next time I do it again, I know here what. I'm not coming back to do any lecture for you anymore because it is as if here what it is. My feelings is totally disregarded by you, right? And it's not nothing about no. To me, I don't see that as ego or anything. It's just a matter of one human being respecting another human being. That is how I see it, right? So, yes, it might be something that triggering something from the past, but remember it was something from the past that was painful, and she probably go through her whole life just sucking up all the painful situations and not addressing it. And I guess you're learning better. For me, I tell myself, yeah, what you have to learn to address this.
Yes, understood. Lisa, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just saying to Anastasia, I understand what you're saying and I understand what Catherine is going through, but I think we are at a place now where we don't just react, right? So it's about stopping, asking the question, and if you're directed to respond and how to respond, then you respond. But if you're being directed to be quiet and say nothing, because sometimes we go and like Adana was saying, this might be this situation, and the next time you have a situation, she might surprise you. She could get a basket because so then it's like you putting out what you expect into the universe. So if you keep, oh my gosh, she gave me these rotten fruits, and then you're gonna get more rotten fruits. You know what I mean? But if you have the opportunity to write the narrative, right? You have the opportunity to ask the question, God, do I then move forward with this? Should I, should I respond, should I not respond, and then you go on that, but not just on your own free will. Okay, you should respond because like sometimes the experiences of, you understand that this is something that trigger you from the past, but sometimes understanding that is the first step. This might be just the first example for you to really be able to sit and delve within yourself and be like, okay, this is something that's triggering.
Mm-hmm.
And why is it triggering? Is it really about the lady giving you the fruits? Is it really about the lady? Is it about your expectations? Because I wouldn't do that to someone else. Because sometimes, a lot of times, we think because you re- don't do certain things, other people shouldn't really do it. Like that's the norm. They should know better. But maybe that's just who she is. You might think you might be the first person that she did that to, but it could have been that's just her norm. That's just who she is. So I feel like, yes, it's something that is painful. Yes, it's something that um, trigger you, but still, you still have to get the answer to if you should respond. You ask the question because sometimes you might go and say, you're responding in a calm manner, and then she might go and take it and it go all over the place. So you have to ask the question, and then when you have the conversation, if you are to have the conversation, she would be in a receptive place to receive the information.
Mm-hmm.
Not just go and be like, oh my God, da 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 da. Some people really just don't know. And I learned that some people, like Adana was saying, like in our families, like we have a certain standard, like how you address people or what you give people or whatever. And you realize like not everyone grew up having the same standards that you have. So this, because when you're talking about it, Catherine, you're like I and me and I and me, and it's all about what your expectation is and what you're looking for, looking to see, because you're trying to see yourself. I would never give somebody rotten fruits. I would, you know what I'm saying? So, but that's her. I'm not saying what she did is right. I'm not saying that you shouldn't say something. I'm not saying that you should say something. I'm just saying you sit with it, you ask your questions. Don't jump the gun and say something before it's time to say anything. And sometimes, by not saying nothing, it could resolve.
All right. And I think this was the perfect example for this topic for tonight, because you recognize everybody have a different emotion and feeling towards it. You know? So this was the perfect, I know there is no perfection, but this really was the perfect topic, because you recognize, and even in it, you're recognizing that one person have a particular feeling, another person have a particular feeling, another person have a particular feeling, another person have a particular feeling. Each triggered off of a lot of different emotions. And even within it, you recognize why the topic is so important, as it relates to your emotions affect your identity. So when you sit with that even a little bit, your emotions affect your identity. And thinking about the situation, had you been in that particular situation, are you allowing this emotion to really affect your identity and who you are? Because even in Lisa's response, in terms of, okay, this has happened, and even for me recently and all, I had a little situation where, in terms of an invite to something, and then I heard about somebody else got an invite, I was like, oh, so I didn't get one. So you're going down the rabbit hole, and the next day the invite came. So what you could do now? What you're really going to do now? And again, the emotion triggered. You hold on to a whole lot of feelings, and it was just unnecessary again. And that is why, even initially, when the question was asked, and I said, you really need to sleep on it, cut the momentum, because sometimes you might be going down a rabbit hole, and even in your situation, this could be a one-off thing. It could honestly just be a one-off thing, but it is also the opportunity to regulate and to practice regulation, and to also practice asking a question, and even into what Lisa was saying, asking a question before responding. Because sometimes, even in my instance, I went down the rabbit hole for a little bit, and then the next day the invitation came, and I was like, Adana, what was the point of even, because a lot of times we put ourselves through all these feelings and all these things, and you keep re-triggering things, and it's not even necessary, and it was just there to really practice. Paula, I know, yes, are you there? I know your hand was raised. I know Anastasia's hand raised after. So after Paula, I will ask Anastasia to speak again.
Yes, good night. If I could share something. I know Catherine must be feeling everybody on hot tonight. Anyhow, I had an experience many years ago. It was a Mother's Day, and the children, I know I have boys, the three children, they got together and they presented me with my Mother's Day wrapped in a Francis Fashion bag. So right there and then I said to them, to me, I use it as a teachable moment. I said, no, I said, when you're giving something, you need to give something and you need to present it in a certain way. This has come from you, you know? And the last one, well, he was little at the time. He said, is it thought that counts? I said, no, no, no. The thought that counts, yeah, we tend to say that. But the packaging has come from you. So when you present something, you are presenting yourself. Just as I would tell them, when you leave home, make sure you look at yourself in the mirror and you're presenting you, you know? But I want to switch up a little bit. Some years ago, too, I had gone to a seminar. And this person, the lecturer was talking about when you have to do things or say things, She reminded us there are 3 M's. What is the motive for doing it? What is the moment you're going to do it in? And what is your method? So that is something that remained with me. So if I have to, and I'm going to bring in boundaries here. Let's say I have a close friend or a relative, whoever, I will ask myself, what is my motive for? So in this case, what is my motive for telling the teacher, whatever? Do I want to admonish? Do I want to teach? Do I want, what is my motive? That's one of the M's, Are you all hearing me? Are you all
Yes.
hearing me?
Yes.
Yes, we're hearing you.
I might have lost my connection, right? So that's the first thing. What is my motive if I have to respond or whatever? What is the method I'm going to use? How I'm going to say it in front of anybody else, or so that you feel embarrassed or whatever? What is the moment? When am I going to do it? So, sometimes, you have little challenges, whether it's your children or your family, you have to choose when and how you're going to do it. So I always remember those 3 M's if I have to respond to someone. But in this particular case, as I think it's either Lisa or Anastasia might have said, sometimes people, they're not learned in terms of how to treat others. And I believe some people cannot give what they don't have in them. Somebody else might have put it in a basket and put ribbons and trim and make it all look hunky, really nice. And so some people, I tend to think that if they don't have it, they can't give you what they don't have. Now, I don't know what's the relationship with yourself and the teacher, how close you all are. So sometimes those are the things you'll have to think about. Is it a very close friend? Is it somebody you worked with before? Is it one-off? Or, things like that. So the thing is, sleep on it, and you have a whole lot of things to think about in responding. So I want to leave it there. I'm not going to say yay or nay, but it's a very interesting topic tonight.
Yes.
So you have a lot of information to go by.
Yes, most definitely. Anastasia?
Yes, and this is what I am thinking. Even though she probably didn't know how to make a proper presentation and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
that is no reason to sit and just accept it. I think that you would be doing her a favor in bringing up the situation. And I mean, it's how you do it is what will, know if you're getting the best out of the situation, out of the bad situation. Because you could bring it up to her, and well, I know you know how to talk. You're very fluent in speaking and things like that. So you will know how to put it across nicely for her to get the message. So that the next time, not even you, she might have to present a fruit bowl or basket to somebody else, and she will know how to do it in the proper way. Right? But I think the matter should be addressed.
Yes, Catherine.
I am laughing because the last time I spoke, I had reached a point where, okay, fine, this is something you could work on. Then Adana talks about how sometimes we try to avoid challenges and the lesson comes back in another way because it always comes back when you try to avoid it. And I said to myself, oh my God, that just unbalanced the whole position where I reached there, because I'm remembering, because, we always say it doesn't come back identical. But if you look at it, it has returned. And so I'm laughing and I'm saying, well, I was in a good spot. I reached a conclusion. And now Adana just said something that triggered some other thinking. So am I avoiding that? Because many, many, many years ago at a workshop, something happened to me. And I did not address it. I said, you know what? I'm never going to see this person again. So just let it be. You don't have to go and address it. And it was a really critical thing that could have impacted my career. And I just let it be. Lo and behold, because I said, the person doesn't work in my organization. I'm not going to meet this person again. And 3 months later, they appointed this person group HR manager. So now I had to deal with this person on the basis of this person has already made the mischief that she made. And so when I heard Adana say the lesson tends to come back if you don't address what you're supposed to learn. And so my mind started to go again now. Am I avoiding conflicts? Am I avoiding a situation?
Okay. And let me
But I
just
think for me, where I have, with the whole discussion, it comes back to me. And I can separate out the two. So if the school needs something for the children, the school needs it. The school is not going to pay me. I'm not going to be discussing fruit. I will show up and do it because it is not about the fruit. The fruit is really, if you look at equivalency, it is what you cannot pay me in my fee. And so even the fee would have been way in excess of whatever you could spend on fruit. So the thing for me now is settle. I don't feel like I want to see the word feel again, get into teachable moments and things like that. I think working on do not have those kinds of expectations.
Yeah.
If they're able to provide something and if they want to offer something, okay, fine. And deal with it when it happens. But going forward, do not get into arrangements that say, you give me fruit. Because another thought came to my mind. Why are you so upset over the fact that you have rotten fruit? Are you moving from a position of lack? Are you saying that you can't afford your own fruit? Why is this? Look at how you're thinking. Look at your thought processes. Look at what's going on. But look at what's going on from your side, not from the other person's side, because what can you control? You can control your expectations. You can control, okay, fine, I will show up and yes, this is what you want. Okay, if we are available, we are available. Don't be expecting fruit and all of these different things. So I think all of these things have come to the wonderful spot of just manage your expectations, because I think it was Paula who said you cannot give what you do not have. And so I'm thankful for all the insight, but I think expectation is manage your expectations and stop acting like you can't buy some jewelry.
And you see, even with all of this, you're recognizing more and more, and for each of us, because what happens is that emotions and feelings tend to send us down the rabbit hole. That's the first thing we do. We go down the rabbit hole, and we go down the rabbit hole very, very, very deep. And this is why you see this experience. And again, Catherine, thank you for sharing, because you recognize that. This is how easily we go down the rabbit hole based on an emotion that was 60 to 90 seconds. And for a lot of us, the feeling is held. And for some of us, we will still hold the feeling tomorrow and rehash it tomorrow. And that is why, too, even in an instance like this, instead of going down the rabbit hole, how do you stop yourself from going down the rabbit hole? Because actually, that was my next question in terms of what tools can you use to really build your identity rooted in values rather than emotional fluctuations. And we just get a snapshot of all the emotional fluctuations that all of us just experienced and all of us were triggered by. So what can we do? I know we spoke of the cutting the momentum. Sometimes you might need to go and sleep, because again, this is how easily you horse gets out the carriage. And based on all of our individual experiences and all of our individual, emotional triggers, based on a lot of different experiences, you recognize that everybody else, everybody, everybody have a different understanding. Everybody, of course, have a different feeling, and everybody's feeling is based on some emotion that happened really before. But even for yourself as an individual, what do you think? What are some of the tools that you can really practice to ensure that your identity is built in values rather than emotional fluctuations? Yes, Anastasia?
Yes, so last week I was having an emotion. I started to feel sad. My eyes full up with water, all kinds of things. I say, so I remember the post, but an emotion only lasts 60 to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
I say, and girl, you what? Sit down with it. After 90 seconds, it going and go. And I sit down with it and really and truly, after 90 seconds, that was it.
Yeah.
It really working truth. After
Yes.
90 seconds, that's what it was it. The thing just go away. And I decide, yeah, what? I not entertaining it. I'm going no further than the 90 seconds with it. Full stop. Let it go. And it was nice. So that is my tool.
Yes, yes, yes. You see, a lot of times what we do, the 90 seconds pass, and even in Anastasia's experience, she gotta be like, well, the feeling gone, but I still vex, so let me remain vexed. We tend to do these things. Let me remain vexed because yesterday when I went on the road, somebody passed and splashed water and did some silly little things. When you really sit and you examine yourself, you recognize that the feelings that we hold on to is really based off of some silly little things. And remember, the more you hold these things, the more you affect your environment. And within your environment is also your body. And whereas you might not be seeing the effects of it now, but in years to come, you might see the effects of holding things for too long. And again, let me just one more thing I'm sharing with you all so that you know. Even just as Anastasia was explaining, you don't have to. This post that says not everything you carry was meant to stay. So look at this person's hands. Look at it. Look at how many little pebbles. Look at how many different things this person has in their hands. You have collected more than memories. Sometimes it's wisdom, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's habits you didn't choose. Examine what you're holding and release what no longer works. So look at these hands, think of yourself, and think of how many other things that you are holding to and not releasing. And in doing so, your hands filled with those things. So you can't really keep your hands open to even recognize any new opportunities in your life because you're so focused on holding these things. And you're seeing how many little pebbles it have, right? So think about it. You really have to ask yourself, is holding these things really worth it in the long run? Or is keeping your hands clear, your mind especially clear and free of all the clutter to receive the wisdom for the opportunities for your next steps to build the world that you would like to experience? Or is holding all these little things that has already passed, does it really have that much value in the long run? Because even if it's value to you, how is it value when all they are is really all of these little blockages that you're creating for yourself? And you see how many little pebbles, so all it might have started with one, but that one went for 10 cousins, and 10 cousins went for 20, 20 went for 60. And then you just sit there attracting. So now you end up with all these things held in your hands. And for probably half of it, you don't even know how they end up there. You don't even know why they're still there. And sometimes you're just holding on to it, and for what? So it's really some food for thought, and it is also the opportunity. I know we discussed going to sleep, and even for Anastasia, in terms of awareness, and even in Lisa's example as well, in terms of you are more aware now to make decisions because you can identify what you are feeling instead of how you are feeling. And in doing so, you can make the next choice to either stay in that space, or you can make the next choice to, as Anastasia said, let it go. This does not define me moving forward. And of course, we always say tonight is the tip of the iceberg. And thank you again, Catherine, for your example, for us to really look at how feelings and emotions really have us in a chokehold. And for the rest of, okay, before I let you all know what the schedule is for this week, Anastasia, yes, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
And then I picture myself throwing the situation in a dustbin and just holding my head and walking away to it.
Yes. Sometimes you really have to do that. You really, really, you see yourself putting it in a dustbin. This is the end. This is the end. Because again, everything starts with you and everything can also end with you. It is all based on what you choose to do in the moment. Do you choose to carry this into 2027? You see, halfway today is the 29th of June. So do you choose to keep carrying this forward? And those little stones might turn into boulders. Or do you choose, as Anastasia said, you throw that in a dustbin. You're seeing yourself throwing it in a dustbin, and that is the end of it. Because just as I told my niece, the experience is the experience. That is all. The experience is the experience. The experience did what it was meant to do. It caused you to stop, reflect, become more aware, define what you want even clearer to send out into the universe. It brought a whole lot of different lessons. But again, a lot of times, and as we usually see in befitment, you still holding to this person in Dubai having a Mai Tai on a beach. And you still holding on. And it's really, sometimes you have to look at life and we had to really laugh at ourselves, Because imagine if we held to the goals and the things that we would like to achieve. If we held to those things just as how we held to the things that we don't like and what we don't want to experience, how far we would really be. How many other things we would have created. So you really have to look at it from that perspective. Imagine if we were holding those things instead. Well, now Anastasia probably in Australia, she's sending me a ticket for a little week for me to come and, see how the place is. But soon, because again, it took us years to get to the point where we are experiencing these things. And yes, it will take us sometimes a little longer than expected to unlearn a lot of the patterns that we have learned. And of course, that is why Befitment is here, to shed some light. And of course, for this week, let me let you know what we will be discussing. Well, a follow-up of the discussion which started last week on feelings and emotions. So of course tonight, your feelings affect your identity. And then tomorrow from 10, we have counseling and consultations. From 6, we will be looking at self-acceptance and emotional honesty. So we would be discussing the steps to create a healthy relationship with emotions. I hope everybody would be there tomorrow with pen and paper in hand. Then from 7, we have our Fuel and Flex full body workout session. On Wednesday, the 1st of July, from 10, we have counseling and consultations. And then from 6, we would be looking at the case for values as emotional anchors. So we would be discussing building identity on redefined values rather than feelings. Again, make sure you have your pen and paper. And then on Thursday, of course, we know that is the practical. So from 10, we have counseling and consultations. And then from 6, we would be looking at building internal and not external validation. So we would be discussing reducing dependency on external approval. Then from 7, we have our Fuel and Flexible body workout sessions. On Friday, we have a private breathing meditation session. based on the Durga breathing method. And from 3, we have Free to Be, where we release, relax, restore, and unwind by appointment only. Of course, if you are interested, let us know. On Saturday, we have counseling and consultations. And then from 3 p.m., we are closed. So wonderful, people. I hope that you all have a week filled of reflection and continued practice. So when the situations arise, and of course with the sessions that would be had, also remember, after these sessions, sometimes the opportunity comes for the lesson to be practiced. So when you see the opportunities, do not get annoyed. Identify them and recognize, okay, this is the opportunity to practice. Because usually you would recognize as the topic comes, so does the opportunity to practice. So when you see it, try to remember what the tools are and put them into practice, okay? So have a wonderful, wonderful night. Have a wonderful week. See some of you tomorrow and see the rest of you next week, Monday. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Bye.